one. Oh, and there are multiple steps before we get going. Step two is to share a script, and the script is again, it's more of a guide, not a an absolute. So one of the questions doesn't get asked, it's we just carry on. Of course, you need there's something you want to highlight within a question, and we can always come swing back into it. It's a recording; it's not live. So that means if you go, I want to rephrase something, or I want to edit something, I want to say it differently. The answer is yeah, because I'm the editor, and I'll pay attention to, so every minute that we're recording for posting, I'm listening to it and going, that doesn't sound right. Something's wrong. Yeah, and zero it out, like ums and ahs, and we'll get kind of peeled back. Pregnant pauses that serve no purpose get peeled back, per se. Like that.
I'm known for, and you know this, is on podcasts such as this. I ask a lot of questions and get everybody involved.
You can do that.
Okay, because
yeah,
there's just way too much genius and expertise in this room right now with the three.
You're the subject matter expert, right? So but that said, yeah, it's a dialogue. It doesn't have to be an oration. I've had some people, they've talked for like 10 minutes straight. I'm looking like they're running with it. The story is good. Okay.
Okay.
It's because at the end of the day, it's about the story. But yeah, the conversation can flow back and forth. That's totally okay.
Okay. Well, I'm not the talk for 10-minute guy.
That's all right. That's all right. We'll tease it out of you too. Don't worry. The next piece that we're going to do is I'm going to make sure my cell phone is on vibrate and away from the microphone, so I don't have any ambient weird noises coming across. So that's kind of a key piece. What else to tell you? Yes, if you have any artwork you want me to capitalize on for the podcast, feel free to send it to me, knowing full well that I will use the Knack for Business logo, the episode, season, and title on that as for a thumbnail.
Okay.
If nothing comes my way, it's totally okay, because I will 99.999% of the time no one sends me anything, but I just offer it as a option. I'm not looking for it. Next piece, if you have any questions, do you have any questions about how we're going to flow? You already asked one, which is great, but if you have any other questions, feel free to ask. I'm good with that.
Well, I'll let both of you know that the past 3 to 4 months have been difficult, and I'm experiencing many episodes of high anxiety,
Okay.
and something that I call depression light. Yeah, and so there was the anxiety went high this morning, knowing that I was going to be here today. My
Okay.
wife has seen me cancel um, many Zoom conversations. They are far more uncomfortable when my anxiety is high than when I
Okay.
meet face to face. But just to give you a heads up that I was off my meds for a period of time. I've gone back on my meds. That on top of other personal circumstances strongly suggested that there was no way I could sit here 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, and more. So I'm in a better place today.
Okay.
Thank you. But just so that you know.
Yeah, the podcast itself is not meant to be a stress test, and so it's just a flow. Both
Yeah.
Wayne and I have done our level of improv in the process. So yeah, if a question pops up that, you know what, not today, cool, that we can buzz past it. And again, if you're asking us questions, it brings you at ease. go
Yeah,
for it.
that's what it does.
Yeah, no, that's totally fine. Yeah, it's pas de problem there, right? The other piece is that when we're done with the podcast and Zoom says, "Hi, Bernie, here's the here are the links, etc." I will send you an email saying hi. You can take the Zoom link and download the file. The intention behind that is that if you want to use it before the podcast is released and you want to use the content, there might be snippets. Feel free.
Okay.
Totally okay.
Well, I appreciate that.
The only thing we ask you just credit the
Oh,
source,
oh
Knack for
yeah.
Business.
Oh,
That's all.
100%.
I know. I'm just trying to think. Is there anything else? Wayne, did
Now,
I forget anything else?
whoever wrote the bio, wow. I was that you, Bernie?
Yep.
Well, the bio, what happens is, because you sent me both a short and a long bio, which is
Right.
fine. And so I take it and I run it through AI and say hi. Sometimes some people don't send me a bio at all, and I have to go fishing. And so in which case I just get the AI and I say, listen, I need it because I don't want to. Some people I don't want to read an autobiography because
Mm.
that's not the podcast, right? So it's more about just about the person and flows from there. So yeah.
Oh, you did. You were supposed to say, "Of course, I wrote it. I'm awesome. Look at me. I'm a great writer.
Well,
I can even write better than AI. I'm better than AI."
well, it's not so much better than AI. AI is part of the tool, and it's just I've learned sometimes I used to write emails to folks and I'd let my staff read it and going, does that make sense? So, oh, not really. Said okay, let's rewrite it. Depending on the nature of the beast, right? So some emails like this is straightforward, and again, it just helps provide a clarity piece. That's okay. So it's actually you who wrote the bio, not me. Okay, how's my sound level?
It's awesome.
Okay, you're sounding good too. So let's begin. Knack for Business, Season 3, Episode E118, March 28, 2025. Welcome to Season 3 of the Knack for Business podcast. Today's topic is Everything Starts with a Conversation. Your hosts are Bernie Fransgard from Creative Insight and Wayne Pratt from Motivate You Inc. So what can you expect from the Knack for Business podcast? Well, the aim is to help you find your feet in the business world, whether you're just starting out or you've been at it for a while. We have something for everyone. In each episode, they dive deep into a particular area of business and explore the ins and outs of that subject. They interview guests that are experts in their field who share their success stories and their experiences. They offer practical tips and advice. And you know what? I just realized you asked me to do an edit on the title. And so it's Powerful Play Experiences. But did I miss something in there?
Brings people together.
Brings people together. Okay, sorry. People together. I thought, hang on, I thought I got it right. And then, yeah, you know what I'm saying. It helps if I can type and spell in English. Even better. And bump and bump and there. Okay. And Mandelson, is that the right way of saying your last
You
name?
bet.
Oh, even better. Oh,
Even
good. I got it right the first time. Otherwise, it's going to take me half a day to get it right.
better.
All right. So here we go. Struggling to keep your team engaged, connected, and mentally well, especially in today's high-stress work environment? Well, that's what our guest is all about today. And I'm going to introduce to you Robert Mandelson from Powerful Play Experiences, brings people together. Get ready to meet Robert, the powerhouse behind Powerful Play Experiences, brings people together. For nearly 19 years, Robert has brought high-energy, joy-filled team development and workplace mental health workshops to organizations across Alberta, both in person and online. But don't expect boring PowerPoints. Robert gets people moving, laughing, and truly connecting. Beyond the play, he shares a powerful personal mission, openly living with and managing depression and anxiety, while challenging business leaders to prioritize mental health in every single day. He leads by example, especially for men, encouraging them to be authentic, brave, and vulnerable in talking about their mental well-being. Robert, Welcome, sir. How
No,
are you?
no, this is, the three of us in the same space together. I don't think this has ever happened. I've connected with Wayne many times, and I've connected with you, Bernie, many times. But the three of us together, how does that feel, Wayne? All of us amazing people, amazing men who day to day in our lives manage our mental health. How does that feel, Wayne? All of us together.
I like the word phenomenal. It's a good word.
That's good.
Sounds like a holy
Phenomenal.
trin. It sounds like a holy trinity moment here.
Well, as I said a few minutes ago, there's a lot of genius in this room right now. There's a lot of to be shared by all of us. So I hope that today's episode is more of a conversation, Bernie. Does that work for you?
It does.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I got a question for you. And I know you like the color green, and you have green rimmed glasses. What's the story behind the glasses? Oh, yeah, tell us
These
a story.
what's the story? What's the story behind the green glasses? First and foremost, I want to thank Mike and Brandy Christensen, um, uh, uh, owners of Venus Eye Boutique here in Edmonton, Alberta. Mike is an award-winning eyewear designer, and close to 19 years ago, he said, you need a set of cool glasses. I'm going to design these lime green type eyewear for you so you can rock the house in your business and powerful play experiences. And I waited a whole year before I got these phenomenal pair of glasses. But you know what the storyline behind it is? As I pull up my notes, the real story behind it is, and I'm going to throw a term at you and ask me if you've ever heard of this term, mental health optimism. Mental health optimism.
Well,
Have
I've
you
heard
heard
of
of this?
mental health, but the optimism, but never in one string.
Okay, and I see a look on your face, Wayne, right now, and it's saying to me, now there's a term I've never heard before. So what comes to mind, Wayne, when I give you the term mental health optimism, and I'll tie it back to the man behind the green glasses.
Well, interestingly enough, I resonate with all three words. The I've never heard it as a term before, but I like the fact that you created one. I'm a pretty optimistic guy, and I certainly believe in prioritizing mental wellness. So yes, I'd love to hear more.
You know, you hit the nail on the head when you said it's a phrase that I created. And it is mine. It is my own, and it came out of our experiences during COVID, and I found myself um, doing working hard at mental health optimism, just working hard at it, maintaining an optimistic thinking around my mental health. So I actually defined it. Would you like to hear the definition?
Yes, please.
Okay, so think of the definition and the reason behind the green glasses, because it all comes together. So mental health optimism, which by the way means I'm a mental health optimist. And Wayne, you are a mental health optimist off the charts, off the charts. We face defeat. We face adversity. We find ways to deal with it. We choose not to be consumed by it, and we surround ourselves with support networks. We speak our truth when life doesn't go well. We function in the wacky world of work where challenges will be inevitable. the mental health optimist. We move on. We forgive ourselves. We validate our feelings. We look for healthy ways to maintain our daily personal wellness. We are resilient. We are our own designated mental health survivors. We are mental health optimists. Wow, that's a standing note just for myself. That's a standing note just for myself. So that's the man behind the green glasses. The green glasses is a constant reminder of my writings around mental health optimism. Am I able to live this each and every day? Of course not. It's not realistic to think that. But it's something I can hang my hat on and know that it provides me with a foundation of positivity as I go through some of those dark times. Your thoughts, Bernie? Thank you for the smile, Bernie, by the way.
Well, I think this kind of feeds into your powerful play experiences brings people together, right? Because I think that's part of the inspiration to bring it forward. Because you've kind of, I'm interpreting this as you've reached in yourself, found a path for yourself to shine a light, especially when things aren't going well. And now you've, over the last 19 years, you've created a business around that, for the business world, right? For the corporate space.
And you
Walk
just
us
said,
into,
okay, hold that thought for a second. You just said something very interesting. The idea of shining a light on myself. The business didn't start with that idea. It was never about beginning with shining a light on myself through mental health optimism. And that was the idea of shifting it to shining a light on myself came years later.
I think my interpretation of the light is not so much on yourself as opposed to for yourself. So if you're in a dark space, right, you don't tend to aim the flashlight in your eyes. Unless, of course, you're spoofing somebody at a campfire. You're aiming it so where you're traveling to, and that's where that's kind of my interpretation. I think that, I
Yes.
think what brought you to the stage of powerful play experiences brings people together, and
so the idea of shining a light for myself.
Yeah.
You know what? I totally appreciate that. Let me make a note of that. Shining a light for myself. Well, in part why I make mention that it sort of was a thought, shining the light on myself, but I love your approach, shining the light for myself. Why that came later on is because I needed to learn how not to fear the mental health conversation. And what is the name of our episode today?
Well, I think our episode today is titled "The Everything Starts with a Conversation."
Yeah, so I'd like to hear more from Wayne. I'd like to hear more from you about the act of starting a conversation, because as I said, the idea of shining a light on me or shining the light for me came years later when I began to feel comfortable not fearing the conversation about my own mental health challenges. And I see Wayne nodding yes to that. So what's up, Wayne?
Well, it's kind of neat. For one thing, thanks to COVID, everybody got a mental health diagnosis, whether it was depression or anxiety. And something I claim is I was nuts even before it was popular. But one thing that I get a kick out of is podcasting is older than Bernie and I, but we found this neat vehicle whereby with 3 people, it isn't adversarial. there's the old, when did you stop beating your wife? You know, the joke. But with 3 people, it just flows. So we've had over 300 interviews. I related with some more than others. A few of them I actually developed situational Tourette's.
Situational Tourette's. We've got meds for that. We've got meds.
It's called Scotch.
But I have to give you some applause. The traditional vehicle that our society did choose was, you're not neurotypical and you have this diagnosable illness, so therefore you're a victim, and that here's your pension check, get a basement apartment and have a nice day. And maybe, just maybe, there might be enough for a case of beer at the end of the month. And being a champion, you said, no, we have to turn that on its head. And I'm sure you have fans, maybe you even have critics. But the idea that corporations could look at wellness and mental wellness and change the entire model so it was more functional, I think is huge. And I applaud you.
You know, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And I just, you know, it's way too easy to start a conversation about the importance of better mental health at work. It's way too easy to share my own personal story. And I'm flabbergasted, or I continue to be flabbergasted and often disappointed at how leaders and decision makers in today's world of work just don't get it. They don't get it. Positive mental health at work, let's just slap on a definition of that. I'm into definitions this morning. So we have our mental health optimism definition, positive mental health at work. And this is not complicated, Bernie. This is not complicated. A space of well-being and wellness. And you've used that word wellness a few times, Wayne, and I thank you for that, because the word mental is a dangerous word. It's a dangerous word. And when it's tagged with health or illness, it just brings all of us down. There's so many suggestions as to what it means that is negative. But when we turn it into mental wellness, we're shifting the energy to a far better place. Positive mental health at work, a space of well-being and wellness in which everyone achieves their potential. Everyone can cope with the normal stresses of life, and everyone can work productively, be their authentic self, and is able to make a contribution. And Bernie, there's no budget required for this. There's no budget required for this. And that's what flabbergasts me and continues to astound me with leaders and decision makers in today's world of work around the idea that they're just not ready to move forward on it for fear of the costs. And they attach money, a financial investment into people's well-being, people's wellness. And is this something that you see in the world of work where each of you reside? I live here in Edmonton, Alberta. Is this what you see where each of you reside?
Well, actually, my wife calls me self-unemployed. I think that's brilliant, self-unemployed. But I actually have done a lot of thought about this and written some things. And you may be actually closer to this than you realize. The way Bernie is much more spreadsheet oriented than I am. And he came from corporate, and things had budgets, and there were quarterly performance, and, they wanted to, I used to have, when I did my corporate world, I had the HR on my, on an auto dial. So everyone could, but one thing is that I find is if we look at what is possible, maybe even what is probable, and we say, okay, let's look at being well and take illness out of the picture altogether. The neat thing is our culture and our entertainment system, when they show illness, shows the worst 15 minutes of somebody's life, frankly, because it makes the show more entertaining. But when we all are on some kind of an ebb and flow, there are good days and there are bad days. And the key is to make as many good days as possible. Now, you and I, Robert, are trying to find a way that we can sow the good days. Oh, I like that. Too bad it's mostly an audio
What you're
pod.
looking at. Tell our listeners today what they're looking at.
Well, that's why I was going to mention it was an audio podcast, but you got the big word better. And I like the idea
You better.
of better.
You better.
Oh, you better. Oh,
Yeah, he's going to back up a little bit. Yeah.
He's right. The happy face says you better.
So now one thing that I like is trying to show people that you can be, now the new word is neurodiverse. And as much as it's ridiculous, it's also powerful, that you can be different and innovative and wild and crazy and actually get stuff done. And as long as you're not intimidating others, then you should be allowed to do it. And I'm finding that slowly happening. And ironically enough, I find the podcast world, it lets people drip in, so that we've talked to health professionals, we've talked to corporate professionals, we've talked to HR professionals, we've talked to crazy people with green glasses to design play. And the neat thing is, I believe that we're changing the model so that we can all be more well. And I'm excited.
And so I'm equally or more excited than you, Wayne. The challenge is not all of us are as excited. And I believe through my experiences with powerful play experiences brings people together. And by the way, Bernie, that's a new and recent tagline. Pre-COVID and a year post-COVID, the tagline was powerful play experiences, positive workplace mental health for teams. Because I truly believe that coming out of COVID, the world of work, if not community and society, we are ready to not just start the conversation, but we are actually now at a place of readiness, willingness, and ableness to do something. So my question to both of you a few minutes ago was, are you seeing that in whatever region of Canada you reside, that willingness and ableness and readiness by today's
I think inside the corporate space, a lot of larger spaces, it is, because they realize, because size matters. And I say that because if you don't address things, ripples can start happening. And it's like watching an avalanche, right? It starts, little snowflake starts rolling down, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, half the snow face is coming down on top of you, and no one's coming up for air easily. So I think in larger spaces, sometimes they recognize that, and they try to find a good fit. Now, whether they find a good fit or not, that could be another story. And I think what I want to reflect back to you is there are some people that might have myths associated to mental health.
Right.
Right. And what are you finding that are myths for businesses, whether you're small or large? Because that kind of dictates what you understand and what you know. Like, if I cut my finger slicing and dicing veggies, then, like, oh, I might bring it up to my mouth and just like, kind of suppress the bleeding, or I'd have to go see the ER because I need stitches, but I know what to do next. But in the mental health, sometimes we don't. And so what are the myths that you're finding out there?
Okay, so let's come back to something I said a couple of minutes ago about the word mental. Okay, so I'm holding up a sign right now to Wayne and Bernie, and it has 2 words on the sign, mental health. Now, I just want you to picture the sign with just the word health, just the word health.
Mm-hmm.
So Wayne, how's your health today? How's your health? Now, remember, in your response to me, you're just Wayne, average Joe citizen, not Wayne Pratt, the amazing coach and more that you are. So how's your health today? How's your health today, Wayne?
It's not as good as it could be and better than it was.
Okay, well, I appreciate the honesty. Bernie, how's your health today?
Well, I'm on the right side of the lawn, so I think it's good. I woke up today. That's a good start, right? I was able to exit the bed with my body and go to the bathroom and start the day, start the process. So,
okay, hold on. Okay. So let's summarize by saying how easy it was for both of you to respond to the question, how's your health today? And you rolled with it very well, and you rolled with it with great humor as well. Typical men responses. We'll throw in a bit of humor around that health question. Now, let's ask the question, how's your mental health today? Your mental health, Wayne?
I'm actually having a good day, and Robert's actually part of the answer.
Thank you, Wayne. Bernie?
How's
your mental health?
Well, I was able to find the bathroom without making a mistake, so my clarity of where I had to go next was good. It's good. Right now in the area, I've been fed and watered, and I'm content. The house is rolling the way it should roll, or my environment is going how I think it should be going. Could it be Boyd? Could it be at different points where do I go, geez, I wish I'd done that, or geez, is that ebb and flow in there? Yeah, it's if I take the whole day as a sum, yeah. But overall, it undulates, right? It just the undulation is not so drastic. Now, are the days that can be drastic? Yeah, and it's maybe a good night's rest as part of the solution, or grabbing a bite to eat so I'm not leaving the space hangry, right? Because those can be driver points, right?
So I'm going to hold up a card, and I'm going to say, what does the card say?
Yes.
Yeah. So I want to thank Wayne and Bernie for so comfortably responding to the question, how's your mental health? And I say thank you for a lot of different reasons. One of them is when I do this small, very little activity in my workshops, what I tend to get when I ask the question, how's your health, is exactly the reaction that each of you gave. The flow, people respond with very quickly. They understand and interpret the term health very well, and they're able to let us know exactly where they stand. But as soon as I slap on the word mental, that word mental, there's always a pause, and people need time to look inside themselves and think about a response. And most often the response, the energy to the response is much lower, and it's much more vague much more vague. So I've discovered, and coming back to your question, Bernie, the myth, there must be something going on with the word mental. People's history with the word mental, as it attaches to words like mental health or mental illness, their own history, a personal history with those two terms, mental health and mental illness, is getting in the way. That is getting in the way of wonderful terms that Wayne brought forward, like mental wellness, right? And the emphasis isn't even on mental. It's no longer on mental. Now it's on the wellness. But when you look at mental health and mental illness, the emphasis is on the word mental. So I'm not sure what's going on. I can speak for myself around my own understandings and misunderstandings around the word mental illness and mental health. There are 4 generations of diagnosed mental illness in both sides of my family.
Wow.
Yeah. And just to explain, my niece, my brother, my sister, that's 2, both my parents, and of course their parents as well, and their parents' siblings. And one day I sat back and began counting family members, dead or alive, over those generations, with diagnosed mental illness. And I stopped counting at 17. I stopped counting at 17. I thought that might be not good for my mental health optimism. So I stopped counting at 17. And growing up with mental illness around me, because my father and my mother experienced mental illness. In fact, the words that were used in their generation was, they would often say, I'm experiencing, no, let me step back. They would say, I'm suffering with another bout of depression, another bout of anxiety, right? Today, we would never use that language. And so I think many myths around mental health and mental illness stem from some of those early definitions or phrases or terms that were used to describe the illness that is your health, right? Because mental health is your daily well-being. The illness is just that, it's the illness of your health. And your illness can be mental, your illness can be physical, your illness can be financial, it could be spiritual. But these are learnings that I've discovered today, not through any experiences with my late father and my mother. In fact, it was highly, highly disturbing to observe their siblings using very abusive and hurtful language towards one another about their own mental health. It wasn't kind. Believe me, it wasn't kind. And I remember terms like, we should put you in an insane asylum, you know? Wayne used the word crazy a few minutes ago, not realizing that was a common word used during my parents' generation. You're crazy. You're mentally crazy. And the classic, you're a mental case. You're a mental case. And you know what? Today, I can't believe that I actually sat around and did nothing when I heard those terms used by my parents and their siblings amongst one another. Today, I use the term, I live with and I manage depression and anxiety. I live with it. And thank you, Canadian Mental Health Association of Alberta, for teaching me those more positive terms. And you can see those terms shatter any myth about mental illness and mental health that I grew up with. I'm living with and managing. And a key point there, I don't say I'm living with and managing my depression and my anxiety. And why don't I say that, Wayne? Why do I suggest depression and anxiety is something that I don't own when I say I live with and manage depression and anxiety?
One thing that I have found is that if you say that it is much healthier to say you have rather than are. When you say you have a mental illness, that's one thing. When you say you are mentally ill, you're actually creating an entire box that's your entire identity.
Right, that was my parents' generation. You are mentally ill. You are a mental case. You should be in the psych ward. That was another expression I heard frequently. They should admit you to the psych ward. Can you imagine those terms today? And the words living with and managing have been a lifesaver for me. And so wherever I go and whomever I speak to, including leaders and decision makers in the world of work, first and foremost, it's changing the language around the use of the word mental. And I'm just going to very quickly pull up some signs here, and I'm gonna show you these signs, and I want you to tell our those who are with us today what you're reading, because they're much more positive. They're much more positive. How about this one? Tell the
Mental
audience.
capacity.
Pardon
Mental
me?
capacity. Mental capacity.
Yeah, and so isn't that positive?
Yes.
Why? Why do you say that?
Talks about something you have and you're giving.
Totally, totally. How about this one?
Mental health champion.
Yes. What's up with that?
Sounds
Role
like
model.
everyone's getting the participation trophy, actually.
Here's one of my favorite.
Mental sharpness. So clarity.
Yeah. Here's I'll bring out a couple more.
You show up with a Rorschach test, though. I'll give you a whole hour's long story.
You like this one, Wayne?
Yes.
What is it? What's the sign say?
I would even just go with resilience, but you've got mental health resilience. I just like resilience.
You're right, and I like mental health resilience. So the idea here is I've been on a journey listening to terminology used in our everyday world that's positive and uses the word mental in a positive light, right? So that we can shatter the myths of the kinds of myths that I spoke about growing up growing up and being exposed to my parents' generation. Here's one of my most favorite terms that doesn't use the word mental.
Wow.
Brain
illness.
Say that again.
Brain illness.
Yeah. Now, Bernie being Bernie's personality type would totally be attracted to the term brain illness.
I don't think that's my most seductive verbiage I've ever seen. But you gotta the mental health and illness. We can split hairs as we talk about this, because if your biochemistry inside your cranium is off, and I say that, to say whether there's a hormone all of a sudden that all of it started increasing or decreasing, or for example, a tumor starts to happen and it presses into the parts of the brain. It can influence your behaviors. And I know those are different things, right? That's like, well, and I'm
But
kind
you
of,
know what you just said? You just described brain illness. So you made it tangible. People
yeah,
can visualize the brain. When we use the term brain health or brain illness, people get a picture in their mind of a thing, right? And that thing just shifts the old language around mental health and mental illness. It would be no different than me saying, well, I have a leg illness, right? Or I have a shoulder illness. You know, I crashed too many boards in hockey, and now I have a shoulder illness. You know, a constant pain. It's the shoulder illness. So when I say brain illness, it's very tangible for people, and it's a whole new exciting way to talk about mental health by identifying the brain as having an experiencing an illness. Now, we'll just get off this topic, but I want to come back to Wayne's use of the word wellness. What if we called it brain wellness? What if I said, how's your brain wellness today? How's your brain wellness today? You know, and everybody would get stuck on the word wellness, which is kind of cool. Okay.
Robert, I'd like to segue for a sec. One thing that I'm very interested in, most of our listeners are either in business, have a business, or work for a business. Something that you care deeply about is how do we make business more joyful? Let's not just talk about illness. Let's talk about joy. How do we actually bring more joy into business? Maybe even using Robert's tools.
Okay. So we spent a lot of time on this subject of mental health. How ironic, you know, that the gentleman that you're sitting with here, me, lives with and manages depression and anxiety. But I'm also a leading facilitator of play-based learning workshop experiences. I love to play. I love to play. And Bernie, I want to thank Bernie. Very early in COVID, he invited me to deliver a play-based workshop experience online. The very first time I practiced that online, it was a mess, but nobody knew it was a mess because it came across as extremely playful, which means it was a bit messy, right? A bit messy. And that's what play is all about, the messiness, right? Work is very structured and organized and maybe not so pretty sometimes, but it has a function. And play is best when it's dysfunctional. There's not a lot of functioning going on, and it's really messy, really messy. So in my view, one more definition, play is the fastest and most accessible remedy for anyone, any adult experiencing mental health challenges. For it alone frees the soul from pain, sufferings, and hardships, and that thus creates space and joy and happy to step in and ignite our spirit. Thus, powerful play experiences brings people together. I've always said, Bernie, fun at work and play never stand a chance in a conversation with a leader and a decision maker when they say to me, we have work to be done. We have work to be done. Play and fun at work doesn't stand a chance of being given any attention. And it's disturbing to me. It's concerning that the balance, a balance of work and play or work and fun at work drives positive mental health, And so there's a lot of convincing that I need to do with decision makers and leaders to get their heads out of their butts and see the whole idea of fun at work and play as a good mental health, better mental health strategy. And you know what I get back from them? These are some of the barriers that I see. Maybe we'll start to wrap it up pretty soon. So here, pick a number, Wayne, between 1 and 9. And here's what I often get from employers when I introduce the idea of play and fun at work as good mental health, better mental health in the workplace. Pick a number 1 to 9, and I'll pick from my list that particular response that I get from employers based on your number. Pick a number.
7.
Let's see what number 7 reads on Robert's top 9 barriers that get in the way of positive mental health in the workplace. It reads, I don't think it's my job. Remember, this is the leader or decision maker. I don't think it's my job to help someone who is experiencing some sort of mental health problem. Oh, after all, people are hired to do a job. My job is not to take care of someone else's mental health problems. What year is it today? Is this 1960? Is this 1970? What year is it today?
It depends when you're viewing. If we go into the archives, we really don't know.
You know, I to your point, Robert, the kind of the key right now, if I were working for a company and I were to have a slip and fall, sustain an injury, here in the province of Ontario, if I go unconscious, you have to call the Ministry of Labor. Right. And so that's workplace safety. So I at the end of the day, the reason it matters is that, and again, I'm extrapolating based on how the Ministry of Labor views things. Like if someone sustains an injury, the problem with for the mental health component or mental wellness component is sometimes you can't see the injury per se right off the bat. It might be a delay, and even when you're exposed to toxic chemicals. I remember an instance where a person was cleaning and used this particular cleaner, supposed to wear gloves, didn't, and then one day the body says, no, now you're going to have a rash. You're going to have an immediate reaction and coming in close contact. Your body says no. And I think mental wellness flows in the same space. Some people get having the mental wellness is key and critical, and you got to care because that person's working with you. They're part of your team. They're part of it's not a piece of equipment you get a replacement part. They're part of your team, right?
And so on that note, and we haven't spoken about it today, but I'll just put it out there. Take a look at any province's occupational health and safety standards today, and it addresses or it now includes psychological health and safety in the workplace. So we've grown from just physical injury and to now psychological health and safety, respecting the fact that psychological injury also takes place in the workplace. Okay, very quickly, just pick a number, Bernie. Pick a number. Pick a number.
Between 1 and 9?
Yeah.
Or any other number?
Sorry.
That's okay. We'll go with the number 3.
Okay, so a typical barrier that I hear from employers, leaders, and decision makers when I say let's play for better mental health. This is good. I don't have time. Heavy workloads, busy schedules, limited resources make it very difficult to think about putting yet another important item on my plate, especially a framework for workplace psychological health and safety. What year is it? Please, somebody tell me what year it is.
It's obviously the 1200s where you have a guy wearing an armored suit on a horse with a lance, look to pick a fight.
So, Robert,
I have a meeting in about 5 minutes with a gentleman from the Canadian Mental Health Association. He's very interested in the work that I do. I've attended many conferences and such here in Edmonton, hosted by the Canadian Mental Health Association. I'm also a certified psychological health and safety advisor through the Canadian Mental Health Association. And I've recently applied for a casual position as a peer facilitator in one of the Canadian Mental Health Association programs. Thank you, Wayne. Wayne just gave me a thumbs up. And I need to have a conversation with him about that. We've just scraped the surface, but most importantly, as the title of today's episode was about, we had a conversation. We had many conversations because everything starts with a conversation, and we did it. We did it. I'm honored to have had your company today.
well, Robert, let's assume that somebody's listening to this podcast and they want to start a conversation. How do they get a hold of you?
You know, I always ask people to visit www.powerfulplay.ca. I can give out an email. I can give my LinkedIn, send them to my LinkedIn profile. But why miss out on an opportunity to learn more about me through the website, and then pick up the phone and call me? Don't email me. Pick up the phone. Let's start a conversation. Why are you smiling, Bernie?
I was coughing. I just muted my mic. That wasn't a smile. It was me trying to not make a sound bite that wasn't going to be recorded well. It was a physical health issue that was resolving that was minor.
Before I leave, here's one more message. I'm holding a card in front of the camera for those who are here today.
And you say "you matter" is what the card says.
That's it. That's my second most used phrase with myself and others, to lift people's spirits, have them feel worthy, esteemed, and confident. We all need a little bit of propping up. Everybody needs to feel that they matter. Yes.
I want to say, Robert, I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to my co-host Wayne Pratt and you, the Knack for Business listeners. If you found this conversation intriguing and you want to focus on the mental wellness, just being well, period, reach out to Robert. It's a good conversation to have because it's the beginning of a conversation, and from there you grow. I'd also like to acknowledge the support from the following individuals: Carl Riches from Podcast Solutions Made Simple, a renowned podcast expert; Fred Crouch, who's the Property Wizard podcaster, where I'm a co-host; Jovan Storko from At Hive, a co-working space that's more than just a space; Melanie Weber, my invaluable business partner; and Wayne Pratt from Motivate You Inc., who serves both as a coach and a co-host to these podcasts. To reach us, it's info@creativeinsight.com. Website is creativeinsight.com. Wayne, how can folks reach you, sir?
Best way is my website, motivateyou.ca, MOTIVE, the numeral 8, the letter U.ca, and my email is wayne@motivateyou.ca.